Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Shelly Palmer Strategy Hacker live stream. I hope everyone's having a great day. Now you hear something like a hot mic, nothing going on. Something going on? Can you get me, Joey? Are you there? Are we all good? I'm glad to hear that everyone's still here with us today. And welcome. If you are with us on Periscope, you're good because you can chat. And if you're on YouTube, of course you can chat with me, and I'd love you to do so right now because that would be awesome. Hey, Andy Marks, and hey, Mickey, how are you? Good afternoon, and hello. If you are on LinkedIn, I think you're out of luck today because for whatever reason, the stream is not able to connect. I apologize to those in advance. If you're on Facebook and you want to join the chat, the coolest thing you can do is come on over to YouTube. ShellyPalmer.com/live is where that happens, and you'll be able to join the chat directly. And for our friends on Twitch, I think you're completely plugged into the chat. So, hey, Frank Quinn. Hey, Joey Lewandowski. Hey, Steve Catola. How are you? Glad you guys are all here. Welcome to the Strategy Hacker live stream. We're going to have a little bit of fun today. Some housekeeping first as we let people sort of catch up and join us. Hey there, Patty. How are you doing? So I did say go to ShellyPalmer.com/live if you're on Facebook. You can watch on Facebook, but if you want to join the chat and meet everybody, say hi to Frank and to Steve and to Larry and Aldo. How are you? Just come on over to either Periscope or YouTube where you'll be able to join the chat. If you're not a PGX member, I don't know why you wouldn't be, pgx.tech, that's where all the cool kids are hanging out. We have almost 3,000 professionals there. It's such a wonderful group of people. Every day there are really interesting topics discussed. Of course, everything has been a little bit coronavirus heavy recently, but also pandemic and post-pandemic planning and strategy. It's really quite a great group, and I hope you will join us at pgx.tech. We'll throw a link in the chat right now so that you can just join if you want to. Hey there, Ken Gold. Welcome. Let's see what else is going on today. Oh, yeah, if you want to email me, you can email me, Shelly at ShellyPalmer.com, or you can DM me at Shelly Palmer. I'd love to hear from you. If this is working for you, let me know. If it's not working for you, let me know. I just want to hear from you. That'd be outstanding. Now, what you probably do know, hi Dwight, how are you? Richard Hartman, welcome. What you probably do know is that on Mondays through Thursdays, we do these online networking salons. They are really, really fun. And the goal is to meet some people you don't know, to bump into old friends, to learn a little, to teach a little. We do them at 11:05 and 11:35 Mondays through Thursdays. You can go to ShellyPalmer.com/salons and pick a topic you like. Hey there, Lisa Schwab. Can I heal you today? I'm not sure we need to be healed today yet. I think we need to see what's going to happen. The country certainly is divided, and I am hoping that all of us, I think I'd like the Republicans and the Democrats to love America first. That's what I think I'd like. I'd like everyone to be American right now, and let's trust the process and hope that it works. Hey there, David Chamitz. How are you? I can hear you, but only minor sync issues. Now, what's interesting about that is there shouldn't be any sync issues. I see that I can see a little bit of lag. It's interesting how Twitch and Facebook and Periscope and YouTube all slightly differ. We're going to work on that. We are definitely going to work on that. Hey, Soul Popped, what's going on? So, let's see. We were talking about salons. Salons, Monday through Thursday, 11:05, 11:35. We break everyone into small groups. It's really, really fun. We do it every day. I hope you'll join us. If you feel like it, come to or go to courses.shellypalmer.com. A bunch of downloads there, free downloads, also some courses, and we're about to load that up pretty heavily with a lot of fun stuff. So a quick trip to courses.shellypalmer.com. We've got our brand playbook generator there, and there is, hey, Atori, how are you? And we've also got a life plan roadmap, which might be helpful for people who are seeking a little bit of guidance and looking for a little bit of workflow and process to think through the things that they want to think through right now. Oh, wow. So Joey, who a lot of you know, has been working very, very hard on our store.shellypalmer.com, where all of the finest strategy hacker garb and stuff can be found. I think you'll like it. We have we have some Zoomy swag, and we've got some strategy hacker apparel and accessories. Your strategy hacker face mask. Hey, Greg Willis, how are you? Welcome. Tori, strategy hackers. Yeah, that's the way. That is the way to hashtag. So I hope you'll go visit the store and make Joey happy. You're all strategy hackers to me. The goal of this whole day is to strategy hack, and that's what we're going to try and do here. I would like it very much if you would be kind enough to follow or subscribe to this YouTube channel, because that makes us get some level of status with YouTube. They would like us to have a certain number of followers. We have a pretty good group of subscribers, but if you would subscribe, that would make me very, very happy, and it would also help us be better at our job with YouTube. Hey there, Fred. How are you? Good afternoon. I'm glad you're here. So today I want to talk about what's in the news a little bit. That's not the election. Believe it or not, there still was a little bit of news. And I also, hey there, Mickey. Thanks for subscribing. I appreciate it. A little bit of news that was not necessarily election related. Prop 22 got approved in California, which is interesting because Prop 22 was the Californians rejecting Assembly Bill 5, which was to make it required for, wow, okay, Jim Thomas. This is our little you just subscribed emoji, so that's really great. That's a great alert, and thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that very, very much. So, yeah, AB 5 gets rejected by the people of California yesterday. Torre, thank you for subscribing. I'm going to have to change that one little piece of music because it's going to drive us crazy. But keep going. It's going to make us all happy. I'm surprised in many ways that California, of all places, rejected AB 5 and passed or approved Proposition 22. You should read about it. It's about the gig economy. Pretty fascinating strategically because there are two sides of this coin, and I can argue both sides very, very easily. Hey, Tom Ryan, how are you? The first way to argue for AB 5 is to say the drivers don't set their own wages. They don't really have any rights. They're employees by anything except name, and therefore Uber and Lyft should treat them as employees, and the same for DoorDash and the other app-based businesses. That's one way to argue it. The other way to argue it is from a tech perspective, where you want to hire contractors and you want that level of flexibility to hire someone for a 3-month project. And yes, you direct them as if they were an employee for a moment. I need you to write this amount of code, or I need you to do this analysis for me, or write this little bit of mathematics and do whatever it is I need you to do. But I don't want to put you on the books because I don't have a long-term project for you. So I'm going to treat you as a vendor. And if you've got your own corporation or your own company and you have a business license and you carry your own workers' comp and you have your own health insurance, or if you don't, because really that's not required by law anywhere in the union at the moment, then why can't I treat you like a vendor? So I can argue both sides of this. I was very scared that the gig economy itself was under siege. Hey, Greg Markell, how are you? Because AB 5 was laid out, yeah, they were going right at Uber and Lyft, who are not exactly the best actors in the world from a corporate perspective, and they were going at DoorDash a little bit too. But the overarching effect of that legislation was going to be to make it very hard for people with H-1B visas, very hard for people who were running little tiny consulting companies like us to be independent contractors. And we fought that battle for many, many years. By the way, if you're wondering how you do it, at least in New York State and in Vermont and in Connecticut, where I have business licenses, the key is to, first of all, you should incorporate if you can, but the key is to carry your own workers' comp and disability, as well as business insurance, a full set of insurance. If you're fully insured and you've got a business license inside a given jurisdiction, it's really hard for them to tell you you're not an independent contractor, that you're not running a business. So Uber doesn't really give their drivers the choice to do all of that. Hey, Don Levine, how are you? Welcome. So it was just interesting that Prop 22 got passed because it's not a regulation I thought that would get kicked out of California. There's very similar legislation in New Jersey right now and in New York, all pending. So we have to see how that all ends up. That was in election news, but not about the bigger part. So I have promised for several weeks to talk about Kit and Zoom and the way you look in your online meetings. And today, I hope you think that this looks pretty good. I'm back in New York. I haven't announced this to anybody past a point other than my very closest friends. My middle son and his wife blessed us with a new granddaughter a few weeks ago, and my wife and I have come back to New York to spend time helping them as new parents. It's their first, our third grandchild, but their first. So we're back in New York, and we'll be here for quite some time until she sleeps through the night, whenever that might be. So I had to set up New York very, very quickly because, as it turns out, babies are never early or late. They're just right on time. But this young granddaughter of mine came a little bit earlier than expected. So we rushed back to town. And here I've had to set up. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jim. Thanks, Greg. I've had to set up very quickly. And I did set up very quickly. What I want to talk to you about today is 3-point lighting. I want to talk to you about separating yourself from the backlight. Thank you, Kathy. I want to talk about camera placement, how you do audio, and what your choices are. And I think we can get through all of this in about 45 minutes, and we can go pretty deep into it. Pretty deep. So thanks, Ramin. I appreciate it. So let's start with the lights if we can, because the lights probably more than anything else will up your game in a significant way. To do lighting, you have a couple of choices. The number one way that I would want to see somebody light if they weren't a professional lighting person would be to face the window. If you could do it, I would face it at a, thank you, John, I would do it at a 3/4 angle, 45 degrees, so that you could cast a little shadow on one side of your face or the other and be done with it, because the natural light will work perfectly for you. Hey there, Ken Weissman. Thank you very much. And Atori, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, everybody. And she's amazing. So maybe we'll share some baby pictures. My son and daughter-in-law have told me no social media, no posting of pictures. So my wife and I have been very respectful of that. Hey there, David Hool. Yes, you can record this for reference. You absolutely can. I'm probably recording this. I'll probably use some pieces of it later. But yes, David, of course you can. And welcome. So we're going to talk now just a little bit about artificial light. Obviously, the window trick won't work at night. You can't sit by the window. If you do, there's no sunlight. No sunlight, you're in trouble. And on a cloudy day, the color temperature of the sun is different than on a bright blue sky day. So what you need to do is pick up some artificial light. You've got a couple of choices in the world of artificial light. For people who are not schooled in the art and don't want to be, the best place for a light is right above your camera, aimed basically at your head. A couple of things will happen there. You will be flat lit, which I'm going to demonstrate in a little while. You will definitely be flat lit if you are a person with beautiful chiseled features, or hey there, Carolyn Wall. If you have chiseled features, or if you happen to be more handsome than I am, the flat light might not be a bad thing. For me, I need, my boyish figure enhanced. And so shadows and light play an important part of how I do what I do for me. But if you just had one light, in fact, I can kind of fake what that would look like by bringing up the different lights I have on me right now. So I'm going to show you, well, I can show you. Let's just show you right now. Here is the light on the upper right-hand side. This is my key light, and call this at 100%. Forgive the graveyard of G drives. I have not rehooked them up yet. They're actually live, but not that live. And on my left, I've got a fill light, and the fill light both have diffusion grids in front of them. The diffusion I'm using is called quarter stop. It's a diffusion, it's like a silk that's made to be a diffusion grid. I've also got a couple of other lights which we're going to go into in a minute, but the first thing we're going to talk about is the key and the fill, because those are the first most important things to talk about. So right now, call the key light 100%, and you can see it's bright on this side, and call the fill light about 60%. But if I were to bring that fill light up all the way, all of a sudden my features, well, now that they match, my features have flattened out. And so that's problematic, right? So I want to get this back to where it belongs, which is roughly 2/3 of my key light. So I've got a fill that's filling up this room. If I turn them all off, we're going to see two more lights that I want to talk about today as well. So let's quickly turn off the key and the fill. And now what you're going to see is the camera automatically adjusts its exposure. You're going to see a light behind me, which is my backlight or hair light, but I don't have any hair. And there's a light that's causing the blue tint on the background, and then the background is slightly lit. So putting this back together, let's go have a quick look at what's actually behind me so that you can see. So up here, we've got a little backlight, and if you can tell, and I don't know if you can, it's kind of got a pink color to it. And then as I go across, you can see this blue little light here. This guy can walk over here. You're not going to hear me very well right now because I'm walking away from my microphone, but this is a little aperture blue light that you can tune to different colors. And then over here, I'll scream a little bit. This has what's known as a minus green on it. It's got a magenta gel. And that gel is awesome for green screen, but it also changes the color balance of this room quite a bit. Quite a bit. So, what are we really seeing here? What we're seeing is a key light at 100%, if you will. About 60% of that is the fill light. There's a backlight behind me. I've got a magenta gel on it. Again, it's called a minus green because magenta on a color wheel is the opposite of green, if you remember your color wheels. And if you're going to cut a key behind you with a green screen, throwing a minus green on your backlight helps cut that key, gets rid of the green spill from behind you. So I just always, because I do a little bit of green screen, tend to leave the minus green on my backlight. And then the little accent light in the back for blue. Some people use pink, some people use other colors, like whatever people like. You can do anything. And of course, the background is slightly lit. And I want to be a little bit brighter than my background, maybe 20 to 30% brighter in this case. I could change the way this feels. I could completely change the way this feels by lighting this place up like Christmas. I could make this look like a television commercial. I think it's less interesting, but it's easy to do. You just turn up all the lights fairly bright. It's just not something that I'm interested in. I also have a second camera that we're going to talk about in a second. We talk about camera position, and that's camera 2, and that's over here. So camera 2, I have to be a little careful about my audio. Camera 2 is set up, it's at arm's length, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit about camera 2 in a minute and its placement and what it's here for and why I like it where it is. And camera 1 I can turn back to, and this is the main sort of zoom shot that I use on a regular basis. So as I said, the number one thing that you can do to make your Zoom world look better, your Microsoft Teams world look better, whatever online meeting software you're using, it really doesn't matter, is to get some lights going. And that light could be one light coming right at you, which will flat light you. Hey there, Paleo Gaming, love it. I'm glad you're here. One light coming right at you, it'll flatten out your features, but it's going to be fine. One of the good things about using one light, especially if you've got a background or a small room, is that if the light's coming straight at you, the shadow's going straight behind you. And that's going to help. It's going to help if you use fake Zoom backgrounds, if you want to do some of that. It's going to help with a green screen. It's just going to help. So one light coming straight at you from just above the camera is fine. If you can, throw some lights at 45-degree angles to you, anywhere between 45 and 70, and get them up high and shoot them down. Now, I'm not wearing any makeup today, so my head's a little shiny. I didn't have time to throw makeup on, but I actually wear makeup almost every single day when I shoot. I know that's not a thing most guys do. It's a thing that I do. I just didn't get to it today. And I blame myself. Maybe if we take a break. But ordinarily, I would wear straight powder. And for me, the powder I would use and the powder I would suggest to anybody who is thinking about using powder, and you don't need more than that. I can't speak to makeup for women who wear makeup, but I can speak to makeup for human beings who just want to look good on camera. Go to MAC Cosmetics, their Studio Fix line of pressed powder. It's not cheap, somewhere between 30 and 50 bucks for a little thing of it. Get an expensive brush, like a good brush. Wait here, I'll be right back. Will I be back? Yeah. We're talking about autofocus. Talking about a really decent makeup brush and some of this stuff. Now, I've got two different colors of this. This is NW35, which is my summer color. And then I have NW30, which is my winter color, because I never go outside in the winter, ever. And my skin gets paler, and though I'm a relatively dark-toned guy, got kind of a semi-Mediterranean guy going, this is absolutely magic. It just is. And the technique, I hate to tell you, is the dumbest technique ever. Glasses come off, and you're going to see the difference now, and I think it's going to blow your mind, because honestly, the top of the head's got to go for me because I am follically challenged. And I don't need more than this because, and you're going to watch my skin tones even out right now, and there's no way in the world that I should have been on camera, and you're going to know this in about 10 seconds. There's no way in the world I should have been on camera. Now, if I was in makeup class with you right now, I'd be talking to you about white underneath my eyes, get rid of the rings. Screw it. I'm wearing glasses, and they're white enough without the makeup. I'll make sure the temples are good. I can't see anything because I wear glasses, but I just done this enough. That's it. It's literally a dusting. And now, no kidding, look at the difference. Top of the head's not glowing. My red tint is no longer red. Face tones are even. I'm done. That took 2 seconds. And you're talking about keeping this in your case or next to your desk. So lighting and makeup, it's super easy. And you're going to look amazing with your existing webcam. Like, you don't need to do more than what I just did. Throw in a little pressed powder, set your lights up in a way that's either good, solid key and fill with a backlight, or hair light if you happen to have any hair. I don't. And if you can't do that, one light coming right at you. And if you can't do any of that, sit by the window. By the way, you can take a lamp, a desk lamp, and put it on your right side in front of you, a little high up, and accomplish everything we're talking about right now. It doesn't need to be professional lights. Now we have to get to the hardcore part. Hey, Steve S., how are you? Now we have to get to the hard. And Rick, how are you? We have to get to the hardcore part about color temperature. I've made some aesthetic choices about the color of these lights, the white lights. If you've gone out and bought LED lights recently, since the world has changed over from incandescent bulbs to LED lights, you may have noticed that if you buy the wrong ones, they're very white, almost bluish. And if you buy other ones, they're really yellow. Some call them soft white. Some call them warm white. Some call them cool white. They're talking about color temperature on the Kelvin scale. From roughly 2700 K, which would be considered a warm yellow light, all the way up to 8,000 or 10,000, which would be bright sunlight on a bright cloudless day. Lights generally don't get much whiter, really bluer, than 6,000 in the store, 5600 to 6000. You'll find those as cool white, and an average cool bulb is maybe 5600. That's what I've seen. An average warm bulb is somewhere around 3000 Kelvin, 2700 to 3300 Kelvin. So, yes, David Houle, 30 for the winter and 35, NW30 and NW35. It's MAC Cosmetics Studio Fix. I don't have an affiliate link. I'm not a salesperson for these guys. I'm on TV 3-4 days a week. This is what I've been using since they've been making it. I used to use Makeup Center. They went out of business a few years ago, more than a few years ago, on 55th Street. May that company rest in peace. They were amazing. And when Makeup Center went out of business, the makeup artist at CNN, my good friend Ro, she said to me, this is what you need to use. And I just started using it and it never stopped. And it's cheap, and there's a bunch of MAC places all over the place. You can get it at Amazon. I mean, it makes a big difference. The trick that I was taught was pony up for a hardcore makeup brush, because it makes all the difference. Like a cheesy makeup brush, the thing comes with this, it comes with a sponge that they stick underneath there. You can see it's bright white. I've used it like once when I was in a pinch and forgot my brush, but you don't want to sponge this stuff on. The whole makeup sponge thing, that's for a guy, it's impossibly hard to do that well. There, you want to put on a base and a thing and concealer, and you got press powder compact, bang it out, boom, 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 go on camera, wipe it off with a baby wipe, oddly enough. You can get those little baby wipes that they use to like change a newborn's diaper, which I'm newly familiar with, and it takes the makeup off super quick. Baby wipes better than anything, actually, and it's good for your skin. Okay, back to our color temperature story. So we got to make some choices. We're going to make some artistic choices about what we're doing now. If the window was open, and it isn't, it's actually, I don't have the window open right now. But if the window was actually, well, let's see. I've got my little remote. Let's just see what happens. If the window will go up, if the shade will go up, we're going to see something different happen now. All right, here, now, there's not direct sunlight because I'm sitting actually in my apartment on First Avenue. So the sun isn't quite showing. I can show you what's going on here. That's the window now. So compared to where I'm sitting, which is from camera 2, you can see now I've got the worst shot in the world because the window's blinding, blown out behind me. So you can see what's happened now. So what's happened now is my key light story is over, because now I've got key light coming from the other side, and all of a sudden my temperatures are all off, and this is looking like a hodgepodge. The background is better. Like, there's all kinds of crazy going on right now. This wouldn't be my first choice. New reflections in my glasses from all kinds of lights bouncing all over the place that I can't control. And so sitting by this window with these lights on, not a good look. Just not a good look. There's not enough light. The camera's not going to be able to do it. I'd have to change the ISO setting on the camera. There's not enough light not to have that. So I'm kind of in no man's land. What would I do to solve for this? Well, I'm going to close the window. I'm going to close the shades so I can talk to you in detail about color temperature. And as this closes, we're going to get a much better story going now with respect to what we are trying to do. All right, here we go. So, actually, the shade didn't close. Wait right there. Be right back. Closed. Autofocus, do your thing. Hooray. Okay, so we're back into a controlled lighting situation. Hey there, Ken Weissman. How are you? Yeah, MAC 35 for summer, MAC 30 for winter. NW goes first. I don't know what the NW means, but I always forget sometimes to order the NW. NW is on the back. NW 35. And by the way, that's my skin tone. They've got like millions of colors for people, so check with your local makeup expert, which would, in my case, would be my wife, who is like my go-to for things makeup, or the makeup people that I work with. But get some makeup advice if I have this like Mediterranean skin. Hey, John Dokes, thanks for the subscribe. I appreciate it. I want to just tell you, like, don't just get NW35 and NW30. Get the two that you need. Maybe you need 30 and 25. Maybe you need 40 and 35. I'm not a makeup expert when it comes to all the colors, so make sure someone hooks you up with the colors. It just works for me. Okay, now, hey there, Michael Port, welcome. So let's talk color temperature. So now I've got a pretty decent look going. I'm happy with my background. I'm happy with my foreground. I opened the window, I had a color temperature issue. What do I mean by color temperature? I've got these lights set up at 5600. Now 5600 is technically daylight-ish. Let's change the color down. Let's take it down to 4400. And I want to show you what happens. I want to show you what happens across the board at 4400. So all of a sudden I'm getting really yellow. Camera's going to try and auto white balance its way through this. It's going to have a hard time. I would really have to white balance this camera now to get this where I want it. But I'm trying to show you that just by changing the lights, I've changed the color temperature of the room. If I had a window open on a cloudy day, or if I was sitting by a window and the window was part of what I was trying to do daytime, I'd probably be in the 4400 range because it's an interesting balance between tungsten or interior bulbs and daylight bulbs. And now let's just go to 3300 maybe. Let's take it all. Well, we'll go to 32. 3200 is what I would call this would be tungsten lighting. Now I've turned totally yellow. This room is yellow. And that is 100% about. Let me just quickly white balance this camera. Hold on a second. We're going to have, because without getting this thing white balanced. Autofocus, do your thing. All right, now I feel better. So now that we're white balanced, that by the way is just a white. You ought to definitely have one of these, by the way. I forget who makes this. It's called the Impact Quick Balance. It's grayscale, 18% gray on one side, and it's white on the other. Really, really good for quickly white balance. I'm going to leave it out because we're going to use it again. So this turns the whole world warm yellow. Not a look I like. It's a look that works for me in Connecticut because the room is all oak or pine or whatever. I guess it's all pine, and that kind of weathered aged pine looks okay this way. But let's take this back now to where it belongs, the way I've got this room set up, which is 5600, which is where it belongs. Let me make that about 60%, and let me make that 5600. There we go. We're back, and let me just quickly tell the camera let me just do a very fast white balance. All right. So now I've got a white balance camera. I've got 5600K going in all of my in my key and my fill. I haven't changed the backlight because it's got a minus green on it, so it doesn't really matter. Do in computer cameras have auto white balance? Yes, they do, Rick Markowitz. Most, in fact, all webcams auto white balance. To my knowledge, I haven't never seen one that didn't. Whether they do a good job of it or not is a different question completely. But they all do it. So, yeah. All right. So, back to our story. We've got a fill light, a key light. Key light's there. Fill light's there. Got a backlight going. And we've got our little blue thinger. Now we got to talk about the next most important part of your how do you look on Zoom journey. You definitely can do a webcam because most people's laptops have webcams and it's just easy. You would like the camera lens of your laptop to basically cut your forehead in the middle. Just want to get it right here, which means you're going to have to put your laptop either on a laptop stand, and you've seen them. Let's go to our quick little iPhone camera here. This is my laptop stand for my MacBook. So the MacBook sits there and it's just sitting on a stand and it's up high. And that's really where you want it, because otherwise it's looking into your nose, which is no fun. Right? There are two shots I don't care for on Zoom. First one is this. where, you know, you're seeing up something just, and the second one is this, where someone who is, you know, follically challenged like I am is just at you the whole time. By the way, if you have any questions at all, please just put them in chat. I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have in chat, and I'm happy to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. I had promised that we would do Looking Cool on Zoom, so we're looking cool on Zoom or online meetings, but we can talk about any other strategy hacker stuff you want to talk about today. I'm just fulfilling my obligations to everyone who has been asking for weeks about this particular subject. So, moving on. Where you put the camera really matters. Not as much as where you put the lights, by the way. Just where you put the camera really matters. If you got the camera so you can look into it directly, that's fantastic. Now, if you have to work, and you know, I'm looking down a lot because I'm looking at this chat, so I'm looking at my monitor. So I want to talk a little bit about where my camera placement is right now. And you're taking notes, but do I have tips in a doc? Yeah, we do have a lot of this written down. You can go to shellypalmer.com/WFH, work from home. There's a whole resource page there. So let's talk about where my camera is. This is camera 1. It's sitting above the monitor, right? So my monitor's here. I can just back up a little bit. This is the desk, and my keyboard is here. This happens to be a standing desk that I can stand with. So the camera's sitting just above, literally just above the monitor. It's back a little bit, but not so much that I can't get the shot I want. And I can lift my monitor up a bit. You'll see the monitor come into the shot. Now the monitor's in the shot. That's no good. So the monitor has to come down to about there. And now that's as high up as I can look. And if I put the stuff I'm working on right in front of me, so now, even though I'm working on my monitor, which I am doing, I'm looking right at you. Right now, the chat, of course, goes the wrong way. So, hey, Pam, how are you? Suggestions for a decent chair. Is it called the Herman Miller? Is it Arion, that one? That's the chair. There's a gamer chair everybody likes. I forget the name of it, but I use the Herman Miller chairs. Not here because it hasn't come in yet, but I have them in Vermont and Connecticut, and they work great. Good for lumbar, good up and down, very good. So camera placement. Camera being right where it belongs, and I can look down, and I'll be forgiven for looking down, but I'm not looking super down, right? I can see Pamela chat just now. Joey just put, or Soul Popped, I think that's Joey, just put the work from home in the chat. So that's cool. Rick Rommel, yeah, Joey just put the work from home resources page in the chat. And anything you guys want to know, you could just reach out. My email is shelly@shellypalmer.com. All you need to do is send me an email. I promise you I will answer it. We really, really want to help you guys get this stuff done. This is really hard. It's minutes to learn and years to master. It's a thing that you can tinker with. I wish there was a super easy way to make this happen where you just press a button and boom, everybody looked awesome. But it doesn't work that way. Like, you got to tweak this. This stuff just takes time to mess with. And it takes patience at a level that maybe a lot of people don't have. It just takes a lot of work. So let's talk more about where this camera is. As an external camera, there's a couple of things happening here that are really important. And this is a particularly expensive setup. And it's not expensive if I were using it for other things, but I'm not. I'm using it for this. So let's go deep into what this is, and you'll see why this is overkill for almost everybody, but you'll also see why it might make sense if you do a certain kind of work. So I'm going to go back to my little handheld camera here, which is my iPhone running Epicam, which we'll talk about. This camera is a Sony. This one is an a6100. And the a6100, I don't know if I can get it in focus enough for you. The a6100, in this case, it has a lens on it that's set up. The lens on this camera is set up to be a normal lens for this mirrorless camera. It's a f1.8 lens. It's a fixed focal length lens. The lens itself was roughly, I'm going to say $400. The camera back, this camera back was probably $700 or $800. Camera 2, which we'll talk about in a second, was about half again as much, or maybe twice as much. The fixed focal length lens is critical, but it's also problematic in that this is the shot for this camera. When I go on CNN or when I go on Fox 5 on Tuesday mornings, I sit back here because I want to be the same size as the anchors. And of course I have to lower so I have headroom. And in case you're wondering, if you can put 2 fingers above your head, that's what this should look like on regular broadcast television. So this would be a shot that I would use if I was on TV, and it is in fact the shot that I use on TV. And I try to smile and I try to look right in the camera. And it's lit for this. Right? If I pick my head up, you're going to see the backlight, the key light and the fill light in my glasses. There's no non-glare coating on these glasses. And the reason there's no non-glare coating is that if I had non-glare coating, like I do on this pair, I turn purple. Now I'm in the movie Dune. Can't have that. So that's what the non-glare coating is about. I don't use it. So we don't want to be purple. And I also have to make sure that I'm sitting in the right place. But when I'm doing this, I sit up here, and I've got the glasses set up so that there's no reflection in the glasses. Why? Well, there's a couple things going on. Let's go back to our camera before we handheld before we talk about the rest of the camera placement story. The computer's in dark mode. Not only is the computer in dark mode, but in order to be here, I've got the brightness set down to 2%. If I raise the brightness of this and I leave something this white in front of me, now look what's happening. You can read it too. Unacceptable. So what am I going to do? I'm going to pull this down to roughly 2%. And even you can still see it. And I'm basically can't have anything that's bright white in there. So if I'm going to read my email, which I want to do, I occasionally read my email. My email, oops, we have to turn our light on. My email is going to be in dark mode. Right? It has to be in dark mode. That's where we have to be. Because otherwise, you get to read my email in my eyeglasses, which I'm not really that interested in having you do. So, back to our camera position. I want 2 fingers above my head, so I'm going to tilt myself up a little bit, right? Because now I'm sitting close, so I want to be there. I've got a microphone above my head as well, because I'm not using a lavalier and I'm not using headsets. I'm just not. Hey, Greg, thanks. You're welcome. Again, anybody, you got some questions, just throw them in chat. Happy to answer your questions. So this camera is giving us the bokeh effect because it's got a f1.8 lens on it and it's fixed focal length. I have it wide open at f1.8. It's shooting at a 60th of a second because we are shooting at a 60th of a second. This is 1080p at 59.94 as a stream. You're probably seeing it 1280 by 720, which would be called 720p. It's still HD, but it's streaming HD. Zoom cuts everything back to 720, even though you're looking at a full HD raster. So at this aspect ratio, at this resolution, I want to do as much as I can to improve the look and feel of this shot. And the way to do it, in this case, is to have a frame rate that matches the frame rate, which is 59.94 frames a second, or 60 frames to round up. You can't round up for post-production, but you can round up in this case. And this lens is wide open, f1.8. And I've got the ISO set in auto because I don't care about the noise. I'm going to be down around 100 or 200 ISO. What I do care about is white balance, and I also deeply really care that this is aperture priority. So I will sacrifice anything to leave the lens wide open. I'll accept an ISO that's higher, 400, 800 if I have to, which will introduce noise into the picture, but I'm okay with that because I'm looking for the bokeh effect in the background, which is the blurry background. I want my eyeglasses super, super sharp, and I want the background to go out of focus. Now, let's look at camera 2 for a minute. Let's see, Michael, what happened ever since you went to this new setup? You've been out of sync a lot, but not enough for this group to be aware of. This is an issue, I think the issue with the sync is restream.io. I've been talking to them about it. As I look at it here, the recording locally is perfectly in sync, so I know the audio and video are going out perfectly. And I'm seeing it perfectly here. So there's something happening. I've got a gigabit symmetrical from Verizon, which let's look at it right now and we'll find out what we're really getting, because why wouldn't we do that? So according to Verizon, my 1 gigabit service is tipping out right now. God bless Verizon. Let's see if we can do that again. Here we go. This is 1 gigabit service from Verizon is giving me, oh my goodness, 260. That could have a lot to do with it, Michael. That could have an awful lot to do with it. Let's see what the other side of this looks like. Upload speeds coming in at 110. This is hardwired, and it should be, ordinarily I'm getting somewhere around 800. So for whatever reason, my suspicion is that the sync has an awful lot to do with our friends at Verizon, and has not a whole lot to do with anything else. It might not be Restream. I may be blaming them for no reason. Apologies to the nice people at Restream if I am. All right, let's look at camera 2 for a second, because camera 2 is fascinating. Camera 1, you could see, is pointed right here, and technically when I'm online, I'll be looking here, and even if I'm working, I'll be looking about here. And if you look at my eyes right now, you would think that I'm looking at you. Here's when I'm actually looking at you. Like, this is you directly. This is me looking directly at you. And this is me working-ish. And this is me finding the chat, which is kind of down. So I'm just looking to see chat. Oh, that's interesting, Greg. So you're getting it. It's okay. Pretty fascinating. Pretty fast. The election is slowing you down. No. We won't do that. All right. In the last few minutes, let's have a quick look at camera 2. So here we are on camera 2. Camera 2, I'm going to have to move my mic. We're going to talk mic next week. We'll talk audio next week. And we'll talk about different ways you can deal with sync. This ordinarily is out of frame on camera 1. Camera 2 is fascinating, and I'm hoping I'm going to move this over so you guys can hear. Can you guys all hear me okay still? Because this is a very directional microphone. So hopefully you can. So here, camera 2, this lens is a 16 millimeter lens, and this camera, which I can show you, this camera is a Sony A6100. You can see my toolkit over there. I've been busy. This is an A6100. I've got it mounted. It's actually mounted to the desk. It's got a ball head so that it can be moved around. And it's on a monitor stand that's connected to the desk. So it's permanently installed where it is so that it can be where it's supposed to be. Yes, I've been doing a little Marie Kondo. You can see all my little Marie Kondo kits over there. All right, so back to what camera 2 actually looks like. So camera 2 is fascinating. This camera, it's an A6600 Sony mirrorless. That's expensive, and I'm not going to say it isn't. I use it for a lot of things. I don't just use it to stream, and it comes off this camera position on a pretty regular basis. And we'll move this over here so you guys can hear what I'm doing. So I can actually hold this camera with my arm. And the 16 millimeter lens is a super favorite of YouTubers everywhere. Why? Because they can do this, right? You can actually just be in this camera's face like that. I can hold it. And it's 16 by 9 the way it's laid out right now, but it can also be 19 by 6, which is Instagram. So you can do this 2 ways. This is a shot a lot of people like. It's not a shot I care for. This is a shot that's I could do a speech in. I have a speech coming up in a couple days. I may do it in this kind of zone because it's a more interesting zone than the very business-like other zone, if you will. This camera, I'm holding it. This is ultimately a handheld selfie shot, and which is why the YouTubers love it. Now, lighting wise, we've got some problems. The key light, which is here, is a little bit hot on the top of my head. I'm being filled now by my minus green backlight coming on this side. So we got a little weird shadow. So it's not exactly perfectly lit for camera 2. We're really lit for camera 1. That's really what the story is. So it's camera 1's lighting that this is about. And it's kind of a, I'm glad you liked the shot, Greg. It took me a minute to figure it out. So we have a bunch of options in here now, right? I've put together my Epic Cam, so I've got my handheld. You can see my spectrum analyzer and my little switcher, and my Mackie Big Knob, which allows me to deal with audio. You can kind of see I've got my Genelex, which I've had for a long time. I love these speakers. We'll talk about those next week. This is the gaming computer. And there's a big reflection of the Big Knob in there, but it's got the GE Force, the 2080 card in there, so it's a good gaming computer. And then, of course, my good old venerable MacBook Pro is just sitting here doing its thing. So we do have a nice setup here, and like I said, the desk goes up and down. But the most important part about this today, the key takeaway that I want you to have from today, is that you can light like this with 2 desk lamps from Home Depot and 2 bulbs with variable color temperature. You can buy smart bulbs that you can set to different color temperatures. From Philips Hue now has bulbs that will go from 3,000 to 6,000. You can set this yourself. You can buy some lampshades. You don't need to buy diffusers. You can just buy silk or fake silk lampshade so that it's diffused. The more diffused the light is, the happier you're going to be. You can shoot the light at the ceiling. The white ceilings will diffuse the light, and that's helpful. So you can just play with a fill light, a key light and a fill light, just those 2. And once you figure out how to get the balance that you want on your face in your webcam, then your choice is, do you want to put a hair light behind you? You want to drop it on your shoulder? Do you want to drop it, if you've got flowing hair, you'll make that hair glow. And it can be very, very subtle. We're not talking about giant, monstrous things here. I mean, my concession for this blue light over my shoulder was just something for some interest. When I turn it off, I think the background's a little more boring. It's a little video gamey. I'm not going to say it isn't, but it's kind of video gamey. So, all right, we're doing some streaming. It's a little video gamey. I'll take it. So the strategy here for us strategy hackers is get a key light, get a fill light, figure out what the 3D modeling is you want on your face when you're looking straight at camera, get your camera position where it needs to be, get your laptop on a stand or on a couple of books or on something that'll get that camera right in the middle of your forehead so that you're slightly looking up at it. If you want to mount an external camera, go right ahead. There's no reason you can't. We'll talk about that next week, how you actually capture the video and get it into your computer. We're not going to have time to get into that today. And next week, we're also going to talk deeply about audio and the different ways that you can capture audio and use it. The following week, we'll talk about how you get all the fun stuff going on, how you can, split the screen with the laptop, how you can do picks and picks on either side. Hello, picks and picks. How you can basically quickly and easily switch from scene to scene, and what that will mean to you as a professional. How you can add graphics if you want to throw a scroll in there and have your thing look like you're a real live YouTuber. Or if you just want to be able to say, email me at shelly@shellypalmer.com, which I'd like you to do whenever you feel like. So, are there any questions I can answer? I see a lot of you have been quiet in chat, which is unusual for this group. This group is usually much more vocal. Any questions that you have, or things that I can talk to you about, camera, lights, camera, or action at the moment? Awesome. All right, look, while you guys are thinking about what you're going to put in chat, let me say the following. We are here once a week on Wednesdays from 3 to 4. And every day we do our salons at 11:05 and 11:35. And I hope that you will join us. It's shellypalmer.com/salons. There you will be able to request your credentials. Like I said, you'll come in. It's a 15 minutes, boom, boom, in and out. Nobody gets hurt. Really, really fun. Lighting control. What do you mean by lighting control, Aldo? What is the question itself? Fixed focal length on C1 is a Sony focal length. It's their 35 millimeter lens. But if it wasn't a mirrorless with that size CCD, it would be on a normal 35 millimeter camera, a 50 millimeter lens. So the nomenclature for that prime is normal lens. And what you want to do is you want to, whatever camera you use, you want to have a set of primes. The primes consist of a normal lens, which is a portrait lens, a wide angle lens that's not fisheye, so that's camera 2. Camera 2 doesn't have any fisheye effect. It's just a wide angle lens. It's very wide. It's 16 millimeter, which would be the equivalent of a 32 millimeter on a 35 millimeter camera. So imagine you had a 50 millimeter lens and like a 30 millimeter lens, 28 to 30 millimeter lens for a wide angle on a normal camera, on a normal 35. And then most people would want to have some kind of telephoto lens where they could actually take a good shot of something far away. The way you used to get the bokeh effect behind me and the way that everybody does it in the grown-up world, and you may have seen this with fashion photographers, they'll have a super, super long lens and they'll be shooting a fashion model on the beach and they'll be 25 yards away from their subject. And in some cases, there's a walkie-talkie that's laying on the sand and the photographer is talking to the subject, to the model, over walkie-talkie while she's doing or he's doing whatever they're doing. And he's 25 yards away, 75 feet away with a 3 or 4 or 500 millimeter lens, but not the kind you'd buy for like a few $100. The $20,000 version where you can really great optical glass. What I love about doing this in optics is that you can get super crispy focus, and this plane of focus is really tight, and the camera itself, because the plane of focus is right literally in the middle of my head, the background has to go blurry. That doesn't happen on camera 2. Camera 2 is a 1.4, and you will see the background is absolutely blurry, right? So this is a super expensive lens for this camera because I want to have a very wide f-stop at f1.4 and because I want the background to go blurry. And a wide angle lens, that's not what would normally happen. So I've made some specific aesthetic decisions to accomplish a very specific look. A very specific look. The control system, Aldo, for this room, I got these really inexpensive lights. In Connecticut, I have the Elgato key light. I have 2 of them. They're like $200 each. This thing is called a Dazine, D-A-Z-Z-N-E. I don't know if that'll focus or not. D-A-Z-Z-N-E. It's from Amazon. It's $200 for the pair. It's pretty cheesy, I gotta say. You know, I wouldn't be dropping them. I don't think I'd be putting them in my light kit and taking them all over the place. But I've installed these on clamps. They ain't going anywhere. They're not moving. Their cords are taped down now. So I'm pretty okay with having the, I guess, how do you pronounce this maybe? Dazine or Dazine, D-A-Z-Z-N-E. It's, it's $200 well spent, that I will say. The big monitor, Greg Willis, is a Samsung CRG49, the G9 gaming monitor. Samsung really knows how to make you smile. Yeah, this thing is badass, as we like to say. I love this monitor. I got a couple of them. I'm not a gamer, although I have been playing games on my gaming computer. We're going to get deep into gaming computers in a little bit. But right now, folks, it's 3:59 and 16 seconds. So please join us. Join us on any one of our salons. I'd love to have you any day of the week. ShellyPalmer.com/salons. If you want to know anything that we're doing, anything you saw today, Shelly at shellypalmer.com. I'm going to be very happy to share with you whatever we spoke about today. Totally happy to share that with you. Just ask, and we'll be there. And with that, I will say to all of you, thank you so very, very much for being here. I really, really appreciate you spending this time with me. Thanks to all of you who subscribed. Keep subscribing. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. I'd really appreciate that too. And we'll see you next time.